I thought it was research meant to keep people from getting sick, but it was the exact opposite.
In the shadows of history, there lies a dark secret. A sinister unit operated under the guise of science. Unit 731. A place where the boundaries of human suffering were tested without mercy. Prepare to confront the unimaginable truths of a forgotten chapter in history. Unit 731 was a secret Japanese military unit during World War II, primarily known for conducting horrific biological and chemical warfare experiments on humans. At the time, Japan was at war with China after invading Manchuria in 1931. They had gained control over much of China and committed several war crimes throughout their occupation. One of the most notorious of these was Unit 731. Unit 731 was established in 1937 in Harbin, China, under General Shiro Ishii. Officially, it was created as a research agency to study public health by experimenting on consenting volunteers to test the limits of human endurance under extreme conditions. As the war escalated, however, prisoners became the primary test subjects. These prisoners were mostly Chinese, but also included Russians, Mongolians, and Koreans. After Japan's defeat in 1945, many of Unit 731's leaders were granted immunity by the US in exchange for their data, allowing them to avoid prosecution. The unit's atrocities remain one of the most infamous war crimes of World War II. Unit 731 conducted a wide range of horrific experiments on human subjects, mostly prisoners of war, with the aim of advancing Japan's biological and chemical warfare capabilities. Some of the key types of experiments included frostbite testing. Physiologist Yoshimura Hisato conducted experiments by submerging prisoners' limbs in ice water until they froze solid. He would then strike the frozen limbs, which sounded like wood. Various methods were tested to defrost them, including hot water, fire, or leaving them untreated overnight. The best treatment discovered was immersing the limb in water between 100 degrees and 122 degrees. Vivisection. Vivisection is the process of performing surgery on an awake subject. This was done in Unit 731 to study the operations of living systems. Prisoners were infected with diseases such as cholera and the plague, and during surgery, their organs were removed while they were still alive. The organs were extracted before death, so scientists could study the disease without decomposition. The victims used for these experiments were often children or elderly. Weapon testing. Prisoners were used to test various weapons, including bayonets, swords, knives, and flamethrowers. They were also exposed to blister agents and nerve gas in gas chambers, and subjected to X-rays, which sterilized or killed many of them. Rape and forced pregnancy. Female prisoners were often impregnated so that experiments could be performed on them. They were injected with diseases and exposed to chemical weapons, shrapnel injuries, crash injuries, and bullet wounds. Surgeries were then performed to examine the fetuses. One experiment that intrigued the scientists was syphilis. Male prisoners were infected with syphilis and then forced to rape other men and women to study the transmission of the disease. These experiments were only some of the brutal and inhumane research techniques conducted by Unit 731. After World War II, many perpetrators of Unit 731 were not held accountable for their crimes. Some were charged with war crimes for using biological and chemical weapons on prisoners and civilians. They also faced charges of crimes against humanity for murdering, torturing, and exploiting prisoners in their experiments. Acts committed in Unit 731 were seen as violations of human rights, which they were. However, many of the main figures, including Shiro Ishii, the head of Unit 731, were granted immunity by the United States in exchange for sharing the data from their experiments, which the US wanted for its own biological warfare programs during the Cold War. As a result, most Unit 731 members were never tried for their crimes. A few individuals were prosecuted in Soviet-led trials in the late 1940s, but the majority escaped the legal system and continued to live normal lives. It wasn't until years later, in the 1980s and 1990s, that the full scope of their crimes came to light. The unit, along with almost all evidence of its existence, was officially terminated after Japan lost the war in 1945. The government never admitted to the crimes committed. It was not until 1988 that Japan acknowledged the existence of Unit 731, and they have never formally apologized for the horrific, mind-boggling acts committed. Because the project was kept secret, many people were unaware of it, and government officials who knew never made it public. This angered the Chinese government, which caused them to establish a museum at the site of Unit 731 to educate the world about what happened. Even today, Japan tries to downplay or deny the full extent of Unit 731's actions. Unit 731's war crimes have had a lasting global impact. Its brutal experiments on prisoners highlighted the need for stronger human rights protections, leading to the development of ethical standards like the Nuremberg Code for Medical Research. The horrible acts strained Japan's relationship with China, Korea, Russia, and Mongolia, where many victims came from. Furthermore, Japan's failure to fully acknowledge the crimes and take accountability for them has caused ongoing tensions with the world. Additionally, the immunity granted to perpetrators by the United States in exchange for their research left justice unserved. Moreover, the research conducted by Unit 731 contributed to the development of biological weapons, which raised major ethical concerns about using morally wrong methods, disguised as science, for warfare. Unit 731 shows the importance of facing war crimes, getting justice, and learning from past mistakes.
If they could feel my regret, my heart would feel a little better. But they're not going to.